welcome back to the channel. Dave here, Stances Everything, and this video is going to be a little bit different because I actually shot a few different ideas for this video, and I'm not exactly sure quite yet how I'm going to cut it together. But the main thing I want to get across in this video is it is time for me to finish up the very last thing to make this vehicle street legal, which is signals for the truck. Now, I need front and back signals to make this thing legal for the streets of Ontario here. I actually don't need reverse lights because of the year of the truck, but the truck is a 51, and in 51 in the 50s, signals were actually optional. They weren't really factory standard equipment. Now, I think I could probably get by with not having some if I was able to prove my truck didn't have signals when I got it, but I don't really want to be driving this thing around without signals. So in this video, we're going to get the front and rear signals working, and spoiler alert, the rears actually already work. And I'm going to overlay some video of me working on this and getting this all in, you know, running some wiring. I made a channel underneath the bed there. It actually matches really well. You can see the piece of metal was like rusted already. It was a rusted piece of square, and it works really well for the bed right now. When I do decide to paint this bed, it's either going to be black or blue under there, but we're not going to worry about that right now because I did get the signals in the rear working. Signals in the rear, which I can show you right now, work with two different bulbs. So let me show you my old lights and we'll really explain how this works. Okay, so this is the inside of a parking brake license plate light signal for a 47 to 54, I believe, GMC truck. And you'll notice that it uses two bulbs. This lower one here, or this lower socket here, would hold a bulb for the parking light, which you can see a little bit of lens here. And then the license plate light as well doubles as the parking light. So this light lights up when you have your parking lights on. Parking light comes out here, red comes out here. It looks like a parking light. And this one up top illuminates when you hit the brake and is also the one that would flash when you have signals. So not really too complicated here, but the one thing that is worth noting is there's only two, and you just barely see them, and this is why I replaced this light. Only two wires go into these units, and it's actually grounded through the body itself. So the power, depending on, you know, if you want to light up your parking lights, power comes through this one. You want to light up your brake light, power comes through this one. And if you want your signal, power intermittently goes through this. That's a little bit different than what I'm used to, but really I'm not used to wiring a car at all. So I just had to kind of figure that out to be able to make things work, and I was able to make that work. Unfortunately, my front light, which I'll show you, front light is my parking light and it should be my turn signal. Unfortunately, there is only one bulb in there, and what's happening right now, and I will show you, parking light lights up as expected. The turn signals stop working when the parking light is working. So to illustrate this, I am going to turn my hazards on and then turn my parking lights on, and you'll see exactly what I mean. Okay, if you couldn't tell what was happening in that last video, my parking lights and hazards are on right now, and you'll see that those are not flashing, but you'll see that my tail lights are flashing as expected. And obviously you can hear the relay clicking away in here. My hazards should be on. Honestly, I think the reason they're not on is just because this bulb doesn't know what to do. It's being sent a signal to keep the light on and make it alternate, and they're sort of canceling each other out, and the parking light's staying on all the time. And I think I have a solution for that. Now we're going to get into the meat and potatoes of the video and why I decided to make this video on my front parking lights and not my tail lights, because I think a lot of people might come into this issue. So the parking lights for this truck are actually GMC Corvette generic kind of reusable thing, and sometimes they're parking lights, sometimes they're stop lights. That's why they don't have a dual filament socket. This is a dual filament socket. You'll notice there's three wires going into it here, and you need specific bulbs for them. These are 1197 bulbs, and they've got a little tab on the side that allows one of the poles to be flashing and make your parking light also function as a signal. Now, the main thing is I don't 100% know if this is going to work. So what I'm actually going to do is make this a test circuit that I can tap into my existing wiring. Now, I've got some American Auto Wire leftover stuff there. I've got my instructions here. American Auto Wire also supplied these for the rear tail light, so I might be able to sort of retrofit these into what I've got. But the first thing we got to do is pull what I have off of the truck, put this socket in with a bulb in it, and see if we can make it flash. If we can make it flash, then it's time to get to modification. Removed my assembly here. Pretty simple. There's a socket in there and there's a nice boot on it. We're not going to worry about any of that right now. All I really needed to do was remove this, make sure that I knew what connectors had on the end there, so that I can use these, which are left over from my kit, to make that connector. And then I can just quickly wire it into this, you know, send a ground to it, and test that it works. So simply, this is going to attach to that. I'll be able to plug this in, so I've got a nice system that I can test with. And then if this works, I can work on getting this socket put into there. So I'm going to set the camera up and you guys can watch me work for a little bit, get this all going, and then we'll test it out in the truck. All right, not gonna lie, we've got some dodgy wiring going on here. So I've got green going to ground, and then I've got my blue and my white wire connected to the wiring coming from the truck. It's in here, it's really dark in here, and my light has died, so I'll show you all the wiring once this guy's charged. But I'm gonna put the camera on the ground and we can run through everything that's happening. What I just showed there was my parking light on and my hazard light on. Previously, that would not have caused a flashing state, but now we've got that with the dual filament socket. So the next step is going to be to put that socket that I got into my existing light and then wire it up all properly because it's wired super dodgy right now. So let's get after it. Guys, this is my second time through retrofitting one of these with the new socket that will allow me to have a parking light and a signal. Because I know a little bit more about what I'm doing right now, I'm going to try and film this one in its entirety and talk about it when I'm doing it. So the first thing obviously is going to be taking the lens off so you can get to the inside and see what's going on in there. It's pretty easy, it's just 2 screws. Open them up. There's a gasket on the inside, but it shouldn't fall out or anything like that. Okay, open that up. Take the bulb out. Not going to be needing this bulb, but it doesn't make sense to ruin it while I'm doing this. And the next thing you need to do, there's a bunch of little tabs in here. You just need to pop all these open to get the socket out. In theory, you might just be able to pull it out, but popping up these tabs is much easier. So let me grab a screwdriver and we'll do that quickly. Okay, so this is probably the most annoying part of the job, but once you get most of them off, you can actually just kind of peel it out. So now we've got the base here, and we've got the socket that we no longer need. But what I'm going to do with this one, it's a little bit different than I did last time, is actually use this pigtail instead of butting into the other one. So to remove that, what we can do, it's all kind of tightly together, but we can figure this out. So you pull that to give access to the pigtail. And I'm just going to snip it right at the end there, just so that we get as much wire as possible out of this pigtail. I don't need this socket anymore. Grab your good clippers, or better ones anyway. Get the wire nice and in there. Snip. So this is now garbage. Don't need that. Move it off to the side. What I do need now is this pigtail. I'll just pull it out through here. Honestly, don't even really need this anymore. So I can just keep this. This will just go in my bin of extra parts in case I need something at some point. Next up is this from the American Auto Wire kit. So I know that a lot of you won't have this, but I do, so I'm going to use it. And this is going to be what I'm going to put in there to essentially be my socket. So just remove what I've got going on here. Housing bit off. And then the thing is to pull that out through here. Pull the wire out. I'll keep this socket, it's in pretty good shape for something else, maybe down the road. And then what I did on the other light was pretty simple. I just shoved this inside and it's going to bottom out on this through here and it's not going to go anywhere. So now that that's through, got a nice push. It's not going to pull out this way. It's insulated. Can rotate it a little bit. And that is perfect to put my socket in. So now I've got this pushed nicely flush in there. The bulb will still slot into where it needs to be. And we're pretty solid. So everything is nice and tidy now. Got a nice connection for the bulb. I'll grab my bulb. Pop it out of the package. And then make sure that I've got these bulbs lined up right. You can see that one terminal goes down a little deeper and one's a little bit shallower. So you want to make sure that you've got this nub down deep enough and that one up like that. Bulb's in. We'll grab our lens. Make sure that you still have the gasket. It hasn't gone anywhere because that's obviously going to be important. Pop the gasket back onto the housing. Then there is a little notch on this that lines up with the drain hole, so you just want to make sure that that's lined up there. Screw it all back together. Okay, so I got everything screwed together now. Pigtail's coming out the way I like it. Everything is, workable. You can see that this isn't going to go anywhere. It's not going to push forward. We are solid. It's not hitting the lens, which is important. So next thing we're going to do here and now is, I know that this white is the ground wire, so I'm going to get this ready to be, make a connection. I'm going to put a long ground wire on it, just so for testing purposes I've got more than enough, and then we'll trim it out later. Alright guys, so I made a mistake. You might have seen this in the last cut when I was hooking this up. I checked online, and so the way that these sockets work, or rather this socket work, this is ground, and then one of these goes to your parking light and one of these goes to your turn signal. Sorry, I will overlay some text with what color goes to what color. I just don't remember it right now. But I do know for sure that green is ground, and I previously had a mistake before where I had my white wire as ground, and it was causing me a couple of issues, and I actually had to go over and fix the other side before we got back to this side. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to wire this up to this connector because this is what is coming out of my wiring harness right now. I need this connector. So I'm going to wire this one up the same way that I did the ground, which I probably showed before, but if I didn't, I'm going to do it again just so that I have extra footage to show how I do this. And we'll just bang through that right now. So listen to the music, watch me work. I'm going to try and do this at real time, at least for one of them, and I'll probably speed up the second one. Alright, so we're going to connect these two together now. First step is going to actually be to make sure that they're stripped to similar lengths. So let's bang that out. I think I said before that I really should get better wire strippers, but it is what it is. Okay, we've got everything to similar lengths. We're going to be able to twist that together. Now, super important, I got different butt connectors this time. Ran out of the Princess Auto ones. These ones are from Canadian Tire. They're a little bit smaller, but they should work just as well. But of course, I do want to make sure that I put them onto the wire first. We'll do this one. So let me just twist this up quickly. We'll slide this over and out of the way. And then what we're also going to need to do is put some heat shrink on this end. Let me just make sure that I've got some heat shrink that will go over everything. That one's too small. Nothing more annoying than getting everything set up, putting the heat shrink on, and then realizing that it's just too small for your application. this will work. If I go there, probably about there is good. Give this a quick snip. Okay, so we got this on here. And then on the other end, which is going to be my connector, I will slide the heat shrink over that. Then what we'll do, we'll make a good physical connection first, and then heat it up, and we'll be solid. So, I'll just twist. So what I like to do when I'm doing a connection, and I learned this on YouTube, is you hold it in the middle, twist one way really good, really tight, and then you twist the opposite way, again holding at the middle, so the middle kind of doesn't get twisted, but then either end gets twisted. Twist it nice, and then you've got a nice connection here. I'm pulling on it, it's not coming apart. Then I'll just slide this bad boy over here, get my lighter out. A butane lighter is better, but this does work. And then just, I like to heat the center first, get that solder going across. I haven't used these Canadian Tire ones yet, so we'll see how they compare. Looks like it's working okay though. Keep it moving along. Make sure it doesn't catch on fire. That got a bit hot. I think it's just because this one's a little bit thinner than the previous one I was using. So I'm just going to keep the flame a little bit further away. Might even switch to a heat gun for the next one, but we'll see. So these Canadian Tire ones are a bit thinner. Got a good connection now though, despite the little bit of smoke there. I'm just going to go heat up a little bit more around the ends. Make sure that we're nice and sealed. Looks like we're good. Got a good connection. Slide the heat shrink over it. This is going to make triple sure that everything's good. And now we're solid. So I'm going to do the next one. Like I said, I'm going to do that one in quick time. Doesn't make sense explaining it twice. Then we should be able to finally wrap up this video and I'll have everything working. But obviously I'll show you on the truck how everything's working out. But let's get this connection together. So I've got everything here underneath the truck more or less done. I do obviously have to clip my zip ties and do a little bit of cleanup. I'm probably going to change this loom to match this loom, but that's not going to happen in this video. However, you can see that this is wired up now. It works. Goes up to the connector that was already here. And then I know that you can run a ground onto this lug here, but I figured since the frame is here, I just ground it over there to the frame. You know, nothing's wrong with that. It's going to work really well. And it kind of just, you know, it's a good solid ground. Here, I was worried that I did try it and it worked okay-ish. But I was just worried with the undercoating on here and the fact that this is bolted to other painted panels. With the frame just being right over there, it's not a problem. Jeff also did ground some stuff up there, and I thought about running it to that ground, but I didn't have a connector that would fit over that bolt. And I honestly didn't want to mess with my front sheet metal bolts too much anyway. So this works for now. And you can see that this connector on here, that is a double crimped connector with heat shrink on it, so it's going to work mint. But enough showing the inside of it. Let's show these lights working and then we can wrap up this video. Clip before I ran through a couple scenarios. First, I just did everything for signals. Left turn signal, right turn signal, hazard lights. Then I turned the parking lights on and ran through all of that. And then finally I turned the headlights on and ran through everything. I will make sure that I put in text what each scenario is so you guys can see how it's working. But it does work now and everything is pretty cool. So that means that we have knocked off the last thing that I need for safety. You guys can probably see where I'm going with this is we're going to keep knocking off things to get this vehicle ready. And one thing that I absolutely have to do is my power steering box has been leaking. You might have seen some puddles under the truck when I'm doing a couple things. It's old. So I have since got a new box from IssyFab and I'm going to put that in. I don't know if I'm going to film that because I'm pretty busy over the next little bit and that's not super exciting. But when I do have the truck back up in the air, I might do just a video on going through and checking everything out to make sure that the truck is good enough to drive. I know I have some airbag leaks. I do want to at least determine what's happening there and what the volume of air loss is. Again, just like the power steering box, these airbags are actually pretty old and they've done a lot of like sitting around. And I know that airbags don't really have a shelf life, but if they're leaking, I know one is leaking from the bag itself, one might be from a fitting. It might just be better for me to at least buy a pair, pull the pair that I have in the truck out, and then keep those as spares. Anyway, we're getting ahead of ourselves because this video was about the lights and that is done. Hopefully this helps someone out. I know for me, I was racking my brain a little bit on how I was going to solve this. I'm really happy it is solved. If this video did help you out, give me a like, a comment, and we will see you in the next one. And I do have a date that I want to get this truck going. It is this year, but I'm not going to tell you that yet just because I want to make sure that I can actually hit it. And being able to hit that means that I need to get 1, a safety, and 2, insurance. If I can't get those things, that's kind of beyond my control. I won't be able to hit the date that I want, but believe me, once I get those things, I will tell you when I want this truck on the road for. All right, we'll see you in the next video.